this queen is a certified vocal coach, voice teacher, artist, and songwriting development coach. This queen is also a therapeutic art life coach, and this queen is Misha Fair. So Misha, for those that are watching out there, a therapeutic art life coach, what does that title entails?
Well, first off, my niche specifically is artists, artists of all kinds, not just not just performance arts, but also visual arts as well. I do look at anything that you can create. I mean, you could be an architect and you're clearly an artist. You know, a lot of people don't realize how much we are driven in society to continue to put out energy, and a lot of stress and anxiety can come from that. The idea of FOMO, just fear of missing out, all of the things that contribute to being your best slightly get dimmed because we're constantly trying to do, you know, instead of simply existing, being, and knowing that what's written for us is what it's going to be. So we use a lot of tools. There are therapeutic, I'm not a therapist, however, I use therapeutic tools to assist my singer-songwriters, my artists. I mean, even I see people who are, you know, in more logistical fields and analytical fields as well. And ironically, they also have hobbies, you know, they have dreams that maybe got cast aside and where they started out in a space that was very artistic. And then of course they had to maybe put that aside so that they could take care of their family or live up to someone else's expectations or whatever. But the goal in it is to unlock whatever's blocking. It's simple. It's unlock whatever it is that has taken that little baby that is inside of each of us that used to go out and dance in the rain and spin around till you fall down. Bring that person back. And that angsty teenager that is telling you to go have bad habits and do things that hinder your most expressive self. We make that person sit down for a minute. So, you know, we use paint, we use drawing, we use music, clearly. We use meditation. There's a lot of different mediums that I call on in the process. There's a lot of ordering and reordering the process of thought, how we view ourselves, how we speak about ourselves, and simply just commanding and calling on the best versions of ourselves and being okay with giving ourselves grace. You know, so there's a lot of components, and every person is different. Every need is different. So, you know, it's even with teaching voice, it's like it's a methodless methodology because everyone is so different. And, you know, so there's a lot of patience involved, not patience necessarily for me, because I pride myself on being pretty patient with my students, but allow people to be patient with themselves. You know what I mean? And reminding people that it's okay to make mistakes, to not know, to feel stagnant, but we just don't stop. We don't get paralyzed and we don't just lay there, you know? So that's it in a nutshell, because it's hard to really describe, but it's just helping people get back to their best self, their more expressive selves. You know, not waiting for other people's impressions to set them on a path, you know, and just letting people know that it's okay and that they're supported still in their dreams, you know, so. I
love it. I absolutely love it. You know what I mean? And I feel like a lot of people, you know, need this, just because, you know, I look at it just by hearing you describe it, is like, you know, every day, we striving, like we thinking like, oh, I gotta make this money, I gotta do this, I gotta go to this job, I gotta do this thing. And we get caught up in the adult life that we forget who we were, we forget who our dreams was as a kid and stuff like that. And so it makes for, like you said, stress, anxiety, a lot of just not knowing where you stand with your self-worth and different things like that. And so this type of therapy is definitely needed for everybody, for sure.
So I'm so sorry to interrupt you.
No, you good. I'm just going to say I'm glad that you're doing that.
Thank you. You. I think one of the things I have to make clear, of course, with any type of service like this, if anyone is having anything that they're suffering from, that they need medical attention,
of course,
we work in conjunction, because that is one of the things that I do. I offer referrals services out with a network of amazing medical professionals as well. So of course, if anyone is ever suffering from, symptoms of true depression or, which is rampant in the creative and music industry, one of the things we don't often see is medical insurance. So this is one of those services. Of course, I'm always going to refer out to, if there's medical assistance needed. However, sometimes there are steps that we can take before it gets to that point that allows us to kind of stave off a little bit of the pressure before we get to that point. That's the kind of service it is, more than anything else.
And that's what's perfect about it, just by me hearing it, just because, oftentimes if we had some of those type of services before it got to the point of depression, you know what I mean? That is like, mitigating that risk of it, that happening. And so, I just love it, just because, I think of it like, I'm doing this, of course, but outside of this, I did design, photography. I used to do music and stuff like that too. And, it comes a time when you have that writer's block, or you have that creative block, and you just like, you don't know if you can do it anymore. You know what I mean? Or, is it worth my time doing this? You know what I mean?
Right.
And so I absolutely love that you got this. So stick with that and keep pushing that, because I already see it big.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So let me ask you this, Misha, for the audience that's watching, could you share with us, about, artist development and, how this opportunity came about for you?
Well, I started as an artist. I was an artist. I am an artist even now. Yes. I make music every day. I produce, I write, I'm a singer. I started in classical music, and I thought I was going to sing at the Met. I wanted to, which, as a Black woman, at the time that I was doing classical music, there were only a couple of women who had made it to that point. I think Kathleen Battle and Jessie Norman, for example. And so it was kind of hard for me to see where I could work doing what I really loved at that time. And, young Misha, was, I think listening to a lot of the things that, some positive, but a lot was kind of like, but just in case, you may want to consider teaching. And I was being told that, even though, I had always been told, that I'd be okay, because I am a pretty proficient vocalist. There was always a little piece of doubt. And so I told myself, I'm not ever teaching. I'm never going to teach, because in my mind, they had set it up as if this is the thing you should do because you can't do that. And so it's almost like someone saying, well, not too many people make it to the draft, so you shouldn't even try too hard. Be a coach. Wow. And so, I realized something about young people, especially young people of color, and just what we need in being built up a certain way. And I said that whatever I decide to do, I'm going to do it with as much love and care as I can, and as much positive reinforcement as possible. And so when I started working for record labels, I worked with Janelle Monáe for a while in my earlier years. I done writing with, artists who were both signed and unsigned. And during that time, I was mostly doing songwriting. I was doing all the behind the scenes stuff. Whatever anybody needed, I was willing to do because I wanted to learn about running record labels.
Yes.
My family's in music, so I was really used to a lot of processes, but things change rapidly in this industry.
Of course.
But I realized that whenever I wrote a song, I always had to go back into a teaching space. And I had already, I did all of that. I'm also a linguist, so my actual teaching experience where I decided to go was not even in music initially. It was in linguistics. And I thought that that's what I was going to do. I enjoyed it. I was using the same types of immersion skills that I use now. But I started to kind of incorporate a lot of the immersion tactics, throwing it all at a person as opposed to like, here, learn this list of things when it came to music. And so I do that in the studio, and I do that in the songwriting sessions when I would be training, writers. And one day it clicked, I probably should do this formally because I was always doing it. Yes. And more and more people started asking. A lot of kind of notable producers would call and ask, can you sit in with my writer, or can you sit in with my vocalist? Producers wanted to reference material. I even had rappers who were like, I'm having a hard time breathing, and and so it started to get more and more like the calling was coming back, like, okay, I know what you said, but this is needed. I realized that everyone who can do a thing can't necessarily teach a thing.
Yes.
And I come from a world with my family where they are both musicians and educators, and that's awesome. What I've always known. So when I decided to go to Bandwidth, I had already had experience with other labels, and Bandwidth was a commercial studio as well as a label. So it was like the best of both worlds. And when Willpower, who is the owner and CEO at Bandwidth, had asked me to come on full time, I was ready because I love the group of people that were, that I was committing to. But I realized that I formed a family. Like, I'm Mama Bear. I'm a helicopter parent. Do you hear me? Like, it was different for me than all the other assignments prior. Yeah. Because you could walk in the situation prior and do the job, help somebody get through that moment that they were having trouble with, a 3 or 4 hour session, and leave. But with this, we do conditioning, or at least I do conditioning. The vocal conditioning, they are, the workouts are pretty rigorous. To keep up with my own schedule, I have a personal trainer. Because, the breath when you're singing is deeper. So I have people who are extreme athletes and they have a hard time with my conditioning. But I want people to be strong, and I teach them really from an athletic perspective as well. So where their mind might not completely understand it, just giving instruction, they're able to identify it with something that they are familiar with. Yes. But we look at all kinds of aspects: flexibility, agility, endurance, strength, all the things that you would look for in a top athlete. Yes. That's what we're looking at. There's a lot of, love and reinforcement, but I'm pretty tough. I will say that. But and I just, I put this program together Initially I'd started out with this insane syllabus. It took 2-3 weeks, and I'm like going in and making all these changes. And then all of a sudden students started coming in who were both in the label and outside of the label. And they were so different, I kept having to throw my syllabus out the window. And I'm like, okay, and during the pandemic, I decided to get some additional training.
Sure.
And a part of that was with Justin Stoney, who's with New York Vocal Coaching. And they train coaches and teachers from all over the world. And so, it was a pretty diverse group of teachers. But he just kept saying, you have to be adaptable. You cannot be rigid, and I've never thought that I was rigid anyway. But he gave me a lot of security in, I guess, the base of my method. Even though I switch things up for students, I'm extremely spiritual. And even though I don't impose any of that on anyone, I think it's undeniable in my own spirit how I choose to address students and what their needs are and how they view themselves and what they do. I think, to make it really plain, a star doesn't have to be told that it is a star. And even if we can't look up and see one, doesn't mean it's not there. Sometimes conditions and, clouds got to be moved out of the way, and, it's got to be dark outside, and it's got, sometimes conditions shift and change and may block them for a while and might even make them look like everybody around you is brighter than you. But it makes it no less a star. So, in making sure that no matter what I teach, they understand that that is still a fact. It makes it easier for me to do the things that I do. The students do have to go through quite a bit of training, and, I don't force the traditional classical training on anyone. Most of them are working musicians already, and they want to do popular music. I do genre specific training. So I used to front a punk band. I have an extensive background in, country music and opera as well. So it's not just urban music. They are immersed in the world's stage. And what that can do for them. We talk about, instrumentals and music elements from all over the world, and vocal technique from all over the world, so that we can find things that it's like cross training, so that they can find things that their body never thought about doing. You know what I mean? So that there's no hindrance in there saying, well, I can't do it. Well, how do you know? You never even heard about it before today.
And you know what? I absolutely love that, because how I look at it is, for me, my perspective on what you do is like, you're trying to put together a Super Bowl team. And, how I look at it, you're the head coach. And, within that coaching position, like you said, every athlete is different. And you have to be able to, but they're all still, professional in their own right. But you have to be able to guide them at where they're at in their position and their skill set. And so it's like it ties in hand to hand. That is awesome. So let me ask you this, how important is it for, singers or performers conditioning? I know that we just mentioned this, but how important is that for someone that's watching this that may be interested in doing this?
It is and I have to say this because, I recognize that all coaches are different and all teachers are different. We all have a thing we do that may be greater or less than whatever by the naked eye, but we all can get it done. That's the beauty of it, is you'll get it done. For me, though, what I have learned, I've always been a person who, I've had like a significant weight loss journey, I'll say that.
Yeah.
And and I've also had medical challenges in my life. And in that, I've had to rebuild my breathing system several times. I've gone through pneumonia. I've had stroke. I've had things happen. I'm very vocal about that because I went through a period of time where I couldn't speak well, and I stuttered very poorly or very badly. And I also couldn't breathe. And I realized that a huge portion of my training, the trainings that I do for my students, is how I got back where I am. Being able to be articulate, being able to sing phrases, with clarity, being able to do a full show, moving from stage to, from side to side, going from stage right and left over and over and over and over with adrenaline pumping. People don't understand how hard that is. It is not as simple. It's literally like sprinting down the street and then coming back and having to give a full speech. Like you would at least be panting, having a little bit of a hard time. It's really difficult to maintain not just the clarity of a vocal or maintaining the phrasing or the line, but it's also hard to keep the energy that the people came for, consistently. It's also pretty difficult to articulate when you're tired, when you're winded. And so we do diction drills. It's not just working out. It's not as simple as, I'm going to go get a physical trainer, who's going to work me out. But you're singing through the full thing, or you're doing diction drills. I have my rappers rapping. We are isolating specific muscle groups that contribute to strong, solid singing. And I also want them to get infused in their bodies what it should feel like, because I could tell you anything, but your body is going to tell you what feels the best.
Facts.
And you know what I mean? And so I want them to feel whatever they were doing before, and then feel it making changes that suit them. And then allow what I say, there's a little lady in there. She's a little lady, and she pushes like a library cart. And every time she learns something new or something feels good, she says, "Oh, we should save that." and she I'm kind of goofy. And she saves that and catalogs that as something useful.
Yes.
Once they start getting more of that, all the bad habits, because I get people who drink and smoke, we're in the industry.
Yeah.
But I start watching them making better choices inadvertently. They don't even think about it. They're eating better.
Yes.
They're sleeping better. They're making conscious decisions to be better to themselves than ever before. Because they want to make it through that workout.
You know what? Wow. Like, you don't understand like how awesome this is hearing this, like, because for me, I used to be a D1 track athlete. I used to do the long triple and high jump. So what you're saying is actually something that I had learned, being the athlete that I was, whenever I was competing and stuff, I was from a little small town. So I really didn't get the, experience what it would be like going against, say, one of the 7A biggest schools and stuff like that. But I ultimately got a D1 scholarship, and I taught myself how to jump and stuff like that. So body position, understanding what feels good. Like if I'm doing a specific jump, I'm like, oh man, this feels good. I'm gliding in the air versus, oh man, I hit the ground too hard and now my ankles is about to bust or something like that. Right. You know what I mean? And so, how I'm relating it is to, like you saying, like, I correct me if I'm wrong, it's like almost hitting that note that you like, oh man, that felt good.
That felt good.
Note, and so I'm glad that you mentioned that. So let me ask you this as well, Misha, for songwriters, that are in smaller towns and stuff that may feel like they're limited on opportunity and resources and stuff like that, and maybe looking to start a songwriting business, what tips or advice would you give to them?
We actually get a lot of songwriters that come in and intern with us. We actually just got an intern from pretty small town. I think he's maybe a small town in Connecticut. And he's been working with us. He actually had been communicating, I think, online or something. That's usually how a lot of people will do initially. They'll reach out, so they can come down when we have camps and other things like that. But he's been working with us and just got a placement with the Migos.
Oh, wow.
I would say shout out to Squill. But, wow. Communicating, being willing, number one, being willing to just reach out, do your research. There's a lot of ways to get involved with, labels, and not just labels, artists. You can reach out to artists directly. There are a lot of people, especially now, who are looking for content. They're looking to co-write. Co-writing is always going to be your friend. Do research on how to protect yourself with your your intellectual property and things of that nature. And I don't say that in the sense of, oh, someone's going to do something to you. I hear people always have these horror stories, and, they do exist. But the reason why I'm saying that is because, the more you know.
Yes, of course.
I think it allows you to relax a bit because just simply by having a base knowledge, you're able to step into spaces with a little more freedom. And come ready to just do the job and be your most expressive, creative self, than being afraid to give your best effort because you're afraid somebody's going to steal it or something crazy. So
you hit the nail on the head.
It's like, I'm gonna give them a little taste, but we need the gourmet meal to make sure that we all can win in this. So reaching out, a person like myself, I do, again, with the referrals, I have a producer network that is pretty extensive. I would say, just simply because I know some amazing people, and I've known, not just people who started out great, but people who started out as interns like themselves. And there's something about when the underdogs link up.
Yes.
Guys who have made it, who also did the grunt work, who also, they knew they were a dope writer, they knew they were a dope producer, but they came in content because they just needed to get in. But they understand that grind. They're a little more open to a newer person coming to the fold. And if you're coming, I say, all right, you're coming from a small town, come prepared to stay for a weekend, network, communicate online, hit people up. And I know with Bandwidth, one of the things that I loved from the beginning is the willingness to bring in new people to teach. They had a podcast, and it's still running, the Free Game podcast, that literally is what it sounds like. It's free game for this industry, how to navigate, how to move, how to communicate with other creatives. It's one of the things, but you can't be scared.
Yes, you
can't be scared. It's one of those things that you're gonna hear things you may not like. You may hear somebody, you won't hear me saying somebody's trash. That doesn't happen. But for me, it ain't bad unless it hurts. So you may find that there are people who are harsher than others. That is a part of it. However, I think if we remember that this whole game is based on perspective. And I don't know about you, but my perspective could shift about a thing from right now to 5 minutes from now, depending on where I am. I could stump my toe right now and I hate everything in this room. So I look at it like that. If it can happen with me in that moment for no probable cause, then in the industry, you never know. You can walk into a room and somebody got cut off in the, driving on the way there, and they just have a bad attitude, but it's not about you. And if you can take that perspective and say, this is simply their perspective in this moment, it could change next week. And as I continue to learn and grow, nobody can take that away from me.
Yes.
So once I've gotten that, I could come right back next week and have a placement. I could come right back and walk into that same room with open arms that just shut the door.
Yes.
You just don't stop.
Yes.
Never stop.
I love that. And you know, and what you mentioned right there, I was going to say too, like about being consistent too. And then also too, like with the perspective like that you mentioned, it's just like I look at it like this. There is always a niche for somebody. So so what some person may not like, you could have a whole tribe of things, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so you know, I really like that. So let me ask you this. What advice would you give your younger you?
Yes. Don't care about the things that hurt you so much that they drown out the things that serve you. One of the things that for me, I'm a Cancer. Yeah. My birthday is in like a couple of weeks. And I spent a lot of time as a young person not hearing when I've done a good job, but hearing a lot of, you need work. You didn't nail that. I heard it, but it would be like a list of things I did right and one thing that I didn't do well. And as opposed to taking that and learning from the thing I didn't do well and growing, it took me a really long time. I was kind of a mid-distance runner in this because even though I was really good at a thing, I was a perfectionist in my heart. Yeah. And as much as I do think we should look to have really strong moments and you'll have perfection in that. I don't think perfection should ever be the initial goal. Expression. That's why expression is the initial goal for me. Are you fully expressed, or did you stop yourself midways because you were afraid that you continue to make that mistake again and you want to get it right, you know? So I think for me, it's wanting to make sure if I could just sit little Misha down, I'd say, oh, child. I'd say, those people didn't hate you, girl. You just, I would say you did a good job. I would have told me that I did a good job more. I definitely would have, because I came up in the time when the industry was a little different. Like now, you've got influencers who are of all shapes, sizes, color, all of these things. And I came up at a time that you were pretty much told you had to be a thing, whatever that was. You had to be a certain thing, a certain way, had to sound a certain way. And so you spent all this time trying to fit in the mold that just probably wasn't meant for you to be in. It wasn't, you know, and that caused a lot of mental hindrances. And I see people falling into that rut, that little hamster wheel all the time. All the things that I couldn't say to myself, I say to my students now. You know, we strive for expression before impression. We strive for all of that full version of ourselves before any semblance of perfection. And in that expression, you will find perfect moments. You will find good impressions. You will find lasting impressions, and you will find forever fans because you were more yourself in those moments than any other time that you were trying to seek out this other thing. So, that's what I tell me.
I love it. I love it. I love it. So let me ask you this, in terms of like, you know, influencers, you know, around you and stuff like that. How important is that? Like, would you, all right, saying having constructive criticism versus having yes men, like where do you find that balance at?
I don't really. Okay. What I have learned is that I don't really need anyone to say yes for me to know something is good and of value. And for a lot of people, they have to wait for validation. They look for reflection. Is one of the reasons, I opted to have smaller mirrors in my space than like the top floor to bottom seal, mirrors.
Yeah.
Because a lot of time I realize, artists are looking for reflections to give themselves validation.
Yeah.
They're looking for expressions. They're looking for everybody's faces to say, oh, that was a good thing you did. Yeah. They're looking for words of affirmation. And while I'm going to give all of that, because, mama bear syndrome, my babies, I am going to give that, but they have to first see it's a radiating reciprocal action here. You got to give them the energy you want to get back. And so you give them that light, you give them that energy, you give them that show, and they're going to give you. And if they don't, you still keep smiling and just say, this is not our reciprocal moment. That's okay. I'm going to still give you good energy. But I don't do the yes man thing. Yeah. If I'm wrong, baby, tell me I'm wrong. Tell me so that I can grow, because I don't know it all. Yes. I still learn from people who are brand spanking new in this thing. And, but I do think having, I won't say influencers, because you never know how a person will influence.
Of course.
Like I said, there are people who know very little or are brand new and don't know anything at all about this industry, but they have life experience. They have good hearts.
Yes.
They're perceptive or analytical or logistical. They have gifts.
Yes.
And so you just never know. I think in having a receptive and warm heart, I've been able to find more moments to learn about my own craft and myself and how to teach and how to build into people.
Yeah.
And it doesn't come from making sure someone can teach me something, off bat. It literally just comes from giving people a chance to live and be their best selves.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. The yes man thing is definitely a no.
Yeah.
The space of having an influencer, I'll say, is it's important. But I don't have like a regimen or a rigid perspective on what that is. I simply just believe in people.
Yeah.
I believe in the ability to learn from people, old, young, whatever walks of life. So that's it.
And I like that too, because, the reason why I pose that question in that manner is that, a lot of times from what I see, it's like some artists that, indie artists, I would say that, like they're looking for that validation for someone. They're not sure. And this goes all the way back to what you said about, finding that younger you and why you love doing what you do. So that's the reason why I pose that, because, at the end of the day, it's like almost like self-love. You know what I mean? It's like, I love myself. I love what I do. And, I'm going to do what I do no matter if you like it, no matter if they like it, and they like saying they like it just to hype me up, but they really don't like it.
Man, have you ever heard of The Artist's Way? It's a book written by Julia Cameron.
I have not, but I'm going to check it out.
This book, I found it at a time when I was questioning kind of how I was teaching. I used to come in, I come into my office at Bandwidth, and and now I have two offices now. I'm at Bandwidth, and then I have the one that I'm in now is a private space. It's my private space for Fair vocal mastery. So I do both. But at that time, I was in my office there, and I would come in and I would play I think it's 192 hertz, like vibration, singing bowl. And I would cleanse the space. I played on a loudspeaker and I just cleansed the whole place. And I would do it before anyone would come in, but that was, every day I'd come in, I'd meditate, and I'd try to set my intention for myself and for my students. But I would question, maybe I'm allowing too much emotion and empathy in the space, and we just got to get to the work. And then I went to Barnes and Nobles, and this book was left on my table by accident. And then I kept picking it up, and then the lady kept coming and taking it away. And I'm like, wait a minute. I saw the name of it, and I'm like, it said like a spiritual guide to creativity or higher creativity.
Yeah.
And I started thumbing through it. And this book says, just as blood is a fact of your physical body that one doesn't need to create, creativity is a fact of your spiritual body. So yeah, blood is a fact of your physical body, and creativity is a fact of your spiritual body that one doesn't need to create. And basically it's saying, sit down somewhere and stop trying to reinvent the wheel. Stop trying to make a thing happen that God already put in you to occur.
Wow. I love it.
And it's just helping people. And she talks about her own walk. And she said it was almost the moment that she realized she should be doing this work was almost as if somebody breathed out a prayer. I need to unblock. And as she was walking, she answered it.
Wow.
And God answered it through her and said, I'm going to show you how to help people unblock. And I felt that in my spirit, in my bones when I read it, because I said, I had just asked, am I doing this work the right way? And then I met some amazing other coaches, literally moments after that, in the weeks after that, an amazing vocal coach, Amadi J, who's also in Atlanta.
Yeah.
And she mentioned that that's one of the main resources for her is that book. And her mentor had brought it to her, and she said, yes, girl, like we bonded immediately because of that same belief. And I said, this is what we all need in this culture, in this community, as young Black professionals and just people in general, but specifically within our community, working with, it's a TikTok nation, it's social media, and the world will tell you differently. Yeah. But from a one-on-one perspective, when you have a human person that can tell you, that they care about you and what you do for real and really guide you in a way, you want somebody that cares about your heart, your spirit, your stability, your mental space. You can't do artist development without personal development.
Love it.
You know what I'm saying? Making sure yourself is okay. So that book and then of course other people, even though I don't think I was waiting for, going back to our other conversation, I wasn't waiting for someone else to validate it. But I do believe that God won't put something in someone else's spirit that he doesn't first put in yours. And I needed to make sure, you know what I mean? So from that point, I have led everything that I do from that space and just wanted to, just usher that into the community as much as I can.
I'm put that in my little notebook. I'm going to check that out because that's real. And I wanted to say this too, my final thought on that is that, how I look at it is that God put that there for you. You know what I mean? I don't want to get too spiritual. I don't know what your beliefs are, but how I look at it is that, sometimes we may have an idea on how things are and God have a different thing and a different way of showing us of what it's going to be. So, the fact that book was there for you, the fact that you sharing that with me, that's how I look at it, and God works in mysterious ways.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Yeah. Well, hey, it's been an honor interviewing you and showcasing your success. Is there anything else that you want to leave the audience with before you go?
No, I'm really just grateful. I do this work, and I honestly never think people are watching, because I don't do it for that purpose.
Yeah.
I'm grateful. I'm so grateful. If nothing else, so that if anybody learns something from it, of course I love to share it.
Yeah.
But I'm grateful for the opportunity to speak on whatever. I'm a talker, as you can see.
I love it.
And even this business and the work that I'm doing now, helping others in service, I found my own voice.
Yes.
In addition to not being able to speak for periods of time, I also was an introvert initially. And being with the family I have at Bandwidth, I found pieces of myself and an ability to help others in that. So I hope that other people understand how important this development is, just to grow individually, but not just for yourself. But you don't know who's watching.
Yeah.
You don't know who can grow because of your growth. So
yes.
Yeah, I appreciate you so much. Thank you so much.
Yeah. No, I appreciate you. That's the thing, my vision that I have with this is, just showcasing all things good in the Black community. And then, a lot of times, not to say celebrity overhype things that's going on in the community, but we need to showcase people like you that's making these artists and celebrities and singers and all of this stuff to what they are, you know what I mean? Because most people that listen to music or they see TV shows and stuff like that, they don't know the behind the scenes. Like, the behind the scenes is the machine that's making the entertainment that people love. When I'm in Atlanta, I'm hitting you up.
Please.
Yes, because look, my little baby girl, she's gonna be looking for some development in the future. So
I love it.
So I appreciate you, and I ain't gonna take up too much of your time. So you have an amazing day, okay?
You as well.
All right, take care.
Thank you, you too.
What's going on, guys? This is Sir Clarence with Ultra Black News, where we aim to highlight all things good in the Black community. So if you're new to our channel, make sure that you hit that like button, make sure that you subscribe, and then make sure that you share this with friends and family members. Make sure to tag them in the post as well if this is great content that you enjoy and that you believe that they will enjoy as well.